fly over the rainbow. Why, oh, why can't
I'm Geoff Long. I'm a self-taught fly-by-the-seat-of-your-pants piano player, singer, entertainer. I came to London in 1966 when I left Worcester School for the Blind and went to train to be a physiotherapist. I did realise from day one that this kind of professional job was not for me. The band that I later really started was called Rich Fever. My parents sort of said, well, that's quite, you know, we like you playing music, but try and get a trade as well so you can fall back on it. So I rang the R&IB up and said, what's your shortest course? And I was told telephony, and I said, that's a coincidence. I've always really wanted to be a telephonist. So I was enrolled on this course, on which, obviously I passed the course, started working for Barclays Bank. And it was while I was working for Barclays that I met another guy who was working for Barclays, who later became our guitarist and lead singer and main songwriter. He had gone blind at the age of 15, but had been playing guitar in some northern clubs before he'd come down to London. And there was a bass player called Bob Goodwin, who I was sharing a double flat with in Pocklington Close, which was a sort of a block of flats for blind people. And we wanted to form a band. We all hated our day jobs, needless to say. We put an advert in Melody Maker, and this amazing character called Christopher Rex Richard Ruscombe Axelrad answered the ad. We later called him Radish or The Dish. And he was a drummer. And he had nowhere to live at the time, so came and lived in a cupboard, quite a large cupboard, in our flat. His mother had had German measles, and he was born with 2 pairs of hands, rather than the sort of common predilection is for 1 pair of feet and 1 pair of hands. So he'd had loads of operations. He was an amazing character. So we gave him an audition. He joined us, and we went from there. Very soon got a recording contract with EMI and did our first single in October 70. But there is an amusing side story to this. I was the general kind of fixer, negotiator, guy that did stuff for the band. I also did the harmony arranging. I was a sort of musical policeman. You know what guitarists are like for playing bad chords. And we'd also gone to several other recording companies with our demo tape. Among them was Graham Churchill of Essex Music, which was a very new company at that time. And they were forming a new label called the Fly label. He wanted to sign us, but we were already signed to EMI. And EMI got to hear of this, and our manager, who was an ex-SAS soldier and professional boxer, was given a real ticking off by the chairman of EMI, and said, you know, he was told, well, if you don't want EMI, leave now, take your group and their equipment with you. And we made the wrong decision. We stayed with EMI. Graham Churchill wanted us to be the first band on the Fly label. And when I tell you that the first band to make a record on the Fly label was T-Rex, and we all know what happened to them. We had 3 totally blind people in the band, and 1, Mr. Axelrad, the drummer, who, well, I think he was fully sighted. He did used to drive, but we hit a few things while he was driving. Whether that was the cannabis or his sight, we never quite found out. Only once can I remember an occasion where we encountered, well, ignorance, prejudice, bigotry, stupidity, whatever. We'd done a gig, it was a conservative club in Hertfordshire, for an agent called Johnny Steen. And Johnny rang us the next day to say how well the gig had gone down, but why hadn't we told him that 3 of us were blind? So I said, well, does it matter? I mean, you know, we didn't think it was very important. He said, well, how come none of you fell off the stage? From 66, when I first came to London and did semi-pro jobs playing pianos in all parts of London, you got around by tube, bus, however you could, and there was no assistance on the tube or anything in those days. People don't know they're born today. We just had to get on with it and do it. You asked people, you know, it toughened you up. You soon learned that you just had to get on with it and do your thing. So yes, I mean, the getting about was a bit difficult, especially some of the pubs were, you know, a long way from a station. And I always remember on one occasion I was being taken back by 2 nice, you know, soft-spoken Pakistani guys, and we were all jumped on by a load of yobs, and they got beaten up. But that happened quite often. I was once stood at a bus stop. I was playing in a place in Stoke Newington, and there was 3 guys with bottles came to bottle a couple of guys at the bus stop. Life was interesting. I mean, I was playing in a pub in Shepherd's Bush called the Eagle, where the compere had actually had an eye struck out with a bottle in a fight in that pub. It was a very Irish pub, but by goodness, you learn your trade there. I mean, the guy would come up and say, well, can you play, you know, whatever? And if you said no, he said, well, do you want to fight? I mean, it really was a boozer where you did try to play what the customers wanted. But on one particular evening, the drummer, the compere, and I were in the middle of a song when an almighty fight broke out. Screams of the women, I could hear the glasses crashing, the tables going over, and the drummer says, come on, it's out the window for us. And he left his kit, and we, 3 of us, scrambled out the window. When I think about what blind people get today, support workers, grants, there was absolutely nothing for us in the 60s. No housing benefit, no benefits of any kind, no support workers, no carers of any sort. We were in a commercial market. There was no disability art scene. We were playing in a commercial environment. If you couldn't cut it, you were out. One thing for blind people which is difficult is clothes, what you wear when you were gigging. A lot of it is about looking good. And I did look good in those days. And we made a mistake here. We were badly advised by our manager. Now, I was always a really dandy dresser, velvet suits, silk shirts, Sea Island cotton shirts. I spent all my money on clothes that I got. But the others weren't. We didn't have a proper band image. Well, women, as far as we all went, women, well, it was fantastic. I mean, when I was at Tailing Island in '67, I was a, you know, nice-looking boy, loads of women, and well, the women wanted to get out of the way of their husbands, and the husbands wanted to drink at the bar and get out of the way of their women. So for 4 months, well, let's say I had an education that you don't get in boys' boarding schools. Many years have passed since my group days, and I live in London still, having worked abroad for some years and whatever. London is completely different from the way it was. And I don't really know how young musicians would cope, or at least the young musicians of my type, because when I started, there was a piano on every street corner in a pub. Now, I don't know, And you didn't have to carry your own gear. So I could go, obviously I didn't drive a car, I could go on my own to gigs and literally learn my trade. Now, even if you can get gigs as a new boy, you need your own equipment. So it means you need a driver. And the gigs themselves, I mean, karaoke has happened, which has taken live work away from musicians. You can still busk, and I did a lot of street busking in my young days. Again, it was character building. I got punched a few times, threatened with stabbings by other buskers and big issue sellers and what have you. You know, you had to learn to hold your corner. But yes, London, it's completely different now. There's a lot more assistance. You know, you can have a support worker, you can have, there are even grants to buy equipment. I mean, we scrimped and saved and bought our equipment HP and begged, stole, and, you know, we weren't above nicking the odd mic from places that we didn't like, that we went to. But yes, I mean, that was very different today. I wouldn't like to start again as I started today, because I'm not quite sure how I'd do it. One thing that really has changed about playing music now and then is the technology. I never adapted. I have an electronic piano and played synthesizer and electronic pianos, but I never got into this sequencing technology. I liked a live drummer, I like my music live. I did use technology to record things. As far as reading, I could never get session work because obviously I don't read print. I did learn Braille when I was sort of 5 years old at my primary school, but Braille didn't really help with music because obviously a blind person needs a hand to read music and two hands to play. So I did try, like Zaphod Beeblebrox, to grow a third hand, but it didn't actually work. Well, as regards playing, I mean, I don't play as well as I used to, but I am an absolutely disgraceful show-off. So, you know, if you ask me, would I like to sing a song and play, I've got to say yes, haven't I? Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that we dared to dream really do come true. Someday I wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops. Way above the chimney tops is where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I? When pretty little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh,